fourth part of this session where I will tell you how to set up secure AWS deployment through integration of GitHub Actions and OpenID Connect, OIDC. So here you will learn how to connect your GitHub Actions to AWS using OpenID Connect rather than storing your AWS secrets and access key in GitHub Actions secret. And we'll know why it is a secure way to go through this process. The use of OIDC allows for secure authentication and authorization when accessing the AWS resources, while GitHub Actions provide a streamlined way to automate the deployment process. So you will be thinking, like, what is OpenID and why we use it? So what happens is, like, GitHub Actions workflow are often designed to access a cloud provider in order to deploy software or use the cloud services. To access the cloud resources, it will supply credentials, obviously, such as password or token with the cloud provider. So these credentials are usually stored in secrets in GitHub, and the workflow presents the secrets to the cloud provider every time it runs. So, however, using a hardcode secret requires you to create credentials in the cloud provider and then duplicate in GitHub as a secret. So what happens when you use OpenID Connect is that OpenID is a protocol that allows a user to authenticate with an identity provider, such as Google or Facebook, and then obtain a token that can be used to authenticate with an AWS resources. So OIDC allows for secure authentication and authorization when accessing AWS resources such as Amazon S3 or Amazon EC2. So users can use the OIDC compatible identity provider for their choice and use the token obtained from the IDP to assume their AWS IAM role, which grants them the permission to specify which authorization is added in AWS. So it becomes a more secure way for users to access the AWS resources. So basically what happens is, like, it by using OIDC, it creates a token, and by that token you can check like what authorization you are getting, like which resources you can access in AWS as an example. So there are many benefits of using OpenID. So the first one is secure authentication. So it allows for secure authentication of users using an IDP such as Google or Facebook. It eliminates the need for users. We don't have to create users, basically, which can be a security risk. Second is single sign-on. So it enables single sign-on for users, allowing them to authenticate once with IDP and then access multiple applications and servers without having to enter their credentials. So this also helps. Third is user information. So it provides additional user information such as username, email address, which can be used by application to personalize the user experience and provide customized access. So the fourth one is compliance. So compliance, in OIDC meets several industry standards and regulatory requirements for user authentication, such as PICDSS, SOT2, and then rotating credentials. With OIDC, you can achieve short-time access token that is only valid for a single job or a single workflow and then automatically expires. While integration OIDC is built on top of Auth 2.0 framework, which is widely supported by many identity providers and applications. So it makes easy to integrate with existing systems. So you will be thinking, like, what basically happens at the background, how it authenticates and how it is done. So here you can see that this is the action that we have to add. So we are using AWS action configure credentials v1 action, and we are using this action in the GitHub Actions step to authenticate our GitHub Actions to AWS using OIDs with region US East 1 and what role that we are considering. We can put any role session name here. So basically what happens is like when you run a job with an action of this action, GitHub Actions takes the role which is mentioned in the role to Azure and request for token from AWS Cloud. As you can see, it is requesting the token from the, requesting to the AWS. Okay. Then it requests an OIDC token from the GitHub OIDC provider, which responds with an automated generated JSON web token that is unique for each workflow job. When the job runs, the OIDC token is present to the cloud provider. So to validate the token, the cloud provider checks if the OIDC token subject and the other claims are a match for the cloud role OIDC trust definition. So if all the validations are correct, then AWS generates a temporary token and sends it to GitHub Actions so that it can deploy the resources in AWS Cloud. And so let's go to the cloud, AWS Cloud account and see step-by-step process of creating OpenID Connect in AWS. So when I open this AWS console, first you need to go to IAM resource, then click on the identity provider and then add provider and then click OpenID Connect, and you have to add a provider which is token actions GitHub here, this one URL, which you can get in the GitHub Actions documentation as well. Then get the thumbprint since it is already used in our account. So that's why it is showing up provider with URL already exists. For audience, what we need to do is like if you go inside here, the audience should be sts.amazonaws.com and then you will do add provider. It will automatically add an identity provider. For us, it is already provided, like we have already created an OpenID Connect for it. So this is the provider and this is the STS. So now let's connect this identity provider that we have created to the roles section. So if I create a role, first go to role section, then choose web identity, and then choose the provider that we have created. Select the audience, then select the organization for or if our organization is this one. Provide this GitHub repository, or provide the GitHub repository part, and provide the branch. You can provide star also if you want for all the branches, and if you want to specify a single branch, then specify a single branch. Then choose your policy, like assume for now I am adding administrator access. I am choosing this one. Then put any role name that you want to specify and then create role. So for us it is already created, like we have already created a GitHub Actions role. So here you can see that this is the role name, this is the ARN that is created for this role, and this is the policy which is administration access policy. And if we go to the trust relation, so here you can see that it is already generated. The things that we need to alter every time if you want to add is like you have to just add the repository name. So this is the thing that you need to add. So it would be repo, this is the account name, the repository account name, and this is the repository name. And this star is for like for all branches I am giving access, so that this role is can be accessible to all the branches of DevOps Hub blog repository. But you can specify even main branch or like any other branch and give restricted permissions. For now for this demo I am giving all the permissions to every branch. So this is the thing. So if I quickly go into the repository and show you the pipeline, that where we have implemented that pipeline thing, is like here you can see that in one of the steps, what we are doing, like after after checking out the repository, first we need to authenticate with the AWS account here, right? Then only we can deploy any resources like maybe EC2 instance or IAM row. So this is the block that we are using here. So we are using this action, AWS Actions, configure AWS credentials. Here we are passing here we are passing the region where we want to authenticate it. We want to deploy our resources in. Then we are adding our role. Here you can see the ARN, right? So the ARN we need to pass. So we have passed these things in the secrets. We have added it in the secrets. And for the role session name, we can provide any name that for us, we have added this name of GitHub Actions session. So this is all for the 4th session. Thank you, everyone.